now it's on in this room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Lautner.
Here.
Trustee Zorro.
Here.
Here. Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Caputo.
Here.
President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Before we move on, because we have only 2 residents here tonight, I'm going to ask presidential privilege again and ask if we can have them speak. Even though it's probably a non-agenda related item, I'm going to ask you to come up now so that you don't have to wait through the whole meeting. If you could step up to the mic, please, Mr. Rounds.
Okay. May I share these with the president?
Absolutely.
And I'm going,
I can test it out for you. That way you can get started.
Good evening. My name is Richard Rounds. My wife and daughter and I have been residents of Grange Park for 21 years. We were in Robin Hood Estates until 4 years ago. We moved to Harding Woods at the address noted on the sheets. My apologies to the people at the tables in front. I brought 10 sheets. I didn't know I needed 10 more. We love being part of this community. We're really excited to be in the home that we're in. And the reason I'm here today is to speak to the village trustees and staff to see if there's some assistance we might be able to discuss for a significant sewer repair. We're in a home that's from, I think, 1929, depends on who you talk to at the Historical Society, almost 100 years old. We were told in September that a small sinkhole that was starting to develop in Catherine near Harding was due to a leak in the sewer line as it met the main. And the village staff member, Gary Moore, said that they had scoped it. When I was able to talk to him on the phone, he said they had scoped it and found that it was probably within the first couple of sections of our pipe off the main, and that anything from the main back to the house was the homeowner's responsibility according to the zoning ordinance. I was not aware of that, but you know, if that's the zoning ordinance, that's what it is. I understand the village has programs to assist with different kinds of things like backflow prevention, overhead sewer lines, but I wanted to talk about this in particular to see if the village would be able to assist or would consider a program that might be able to assist with laterals in general. The community, especially on the Harding Woods side, is going to probably have increasing numbers of things like this because of the age of the systems in the ground. Ours is 97-ish years old. The depth of the line is approximately 15 feet. So that means, for those of you who do construction, that means, you know, boxes and excavation and trenching that's going to be significantly expensive just to get to the pipes. Of the people that chose to bid, the range has been approximately, I think, 12,000 to 18,000. I'm just using rough numbers because you have my sheet. But the 18,000 number is from a union shop that Gary Moore had actually gotten a price from earlier. They're, I think it's Suburban on 31st Street. And 14 of that is the work, and 4 more is replacing the roadway. You know, we have our driveway on Harding. We basically don't use Catherine except as our street address. And we have not been, you know, we don't drive trucks down Catherine. So, you know, we're not significantly adding to the, you know, creating the problem of the pipe itself. And it's been there for 100 years. So, you know, we're also not in control of what happened for the 95 years prior to our residence. So on the back of the sheet, for those of you that have them, I just have some notations about some programs that other communities have. I know LaGrange Park has something in place already, but in terms of laterals and support for lateral repairs, there's a wide range. It's all over, all over the Chicagoland map, from Highland Park to, far outstate. And there are also a variety of programs. Some are just outright payment, some are cost sharing, some are, I think, interesting because they're like an insurance program. Riders for insurance through Allstate were not available when we moved in. Didn't know that this would be a cost that I would have to bear, but a rider for $10,000 of coverage through Allstate costs $65. I would be happy as a resident to pay $6 a month to not have to pay $10,000 to address a pipe problem like this. And I don't know, some communities state very clearly, what costs might be and what responsibilities are. And I'm not saying that you don't necessarily, but they have also, several of them, gone ahead and created these cost-sharing programs so that nobody is significantly burdened or as significantly burdened. So, enough from me. If you have questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Mr. Rounds. We really appreciate you coming tonight, just
Yes.
being here as a resident, but
Thank
most
you.
importantly, expressing your concerns, because everyone at this dais and everyone at that table deeply care about our residents and what we can do to help. So my suggestion would be to get together with Julia and staff and see what can be, maybe
Okay.
formulated to come up with a solution.
Right. So I appreciate that very much. I'd be happy to take time. A couple of things. This is a cost that we're, as a family, not in a position to be able to just pay. We don't have, $12,000 to $18,000 sitting waiting for something like this. We had $65,000 of health expenses last year, and my wife has started a new business, and we've invested heavily in that and have depleted our savings to do that. So, outside of the general picture that I think the community should consider, it's very personal for us. And, we love being residents here, and we would hate to have to sell to, to address the cost.
We will do everything possible. And as far as your family, our best wishes are with you and your family, and hope that everything works out okay.
Thank you.
Julie, do you have anything to add to that?
Staff can look into the programs that are available and have a better understanding of what, for the villages that are providing programs, what is typical. I appreciate the information here, but we would have to do
Right.
more research to understand what's out there.
Okay, so we'll keep in communication with you, Mr. Rounds, okay?
Thank you. And the one other practical point is the letter that we'd received from the village stating that there was a problem also included a caution that if we did not pursue the repairs, that there would be court levies of $100 to $750 a day, that the work was not accomplished. And that would significantly add to the problem
Right.
that we would face. So I appreciate your consideration, your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rounds.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak to the board?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Hitzman, a resident, lifetime resident of LaGrange Park. I'm sorry for your situation you're in, but I do thank you for the layup for why I'm here this evening. I'm here this evening because I'm going to question a few things that are happening here. We've had the board accuse different facets of our village and our community of kind of some misleading and so forth. And I'm going to call the question how that isn't relative to what we're doing here, or you are about to do here this evening. For the life of me, I can't understand why we're discussing taxing 70% of our base residents to account for 35% of our problem with our water lines. I bought a house in the Grange Park that is 60 amp service, that when I bought it, I needed an upgrade to 100 amp. I did not receive any sort of compensation from the village to provide those utilities to my house. Same house had a sewer cave-in. Granted, that was greater than 14, 15 years ago at this point in time, which is due to roots in the parkway, which I didn't plant the tree, which is not my tree, which at that point in time cost me about $12,500 to fix. At that point in time, there was no assistance from the village. I had to go out on my own, get a home equity loan, pay for it, dig up the street, dig up the parkway. Didn't even need to dig up my front yard because the problem was not in my front yard. The problem was at the curb in the street. So at that point in time, I should have just replaced the curb in the street, but I replaced to the main, so that way I did not have any additional issues. So once again, I'm questioning why the village is not gathering forms of best rates of lending, gathering forms of saying, hey, I've got 1,500 potential residents that are interested in utilizing your service. What can we get as an economies of scale to fix the problem that's at hand? And should you choose to participate or not is up to you. I mean, we ultimately all have options. I know several people. I got a daughter who doesn't drink the tap water that comes out of our tap. And at my current location of 4 houses that I've lived in Grange Park, I do not have lead water pipes. So thank me very much that I don't have to deal with this. But she drinks nothing but bottled water, even though it's got the plastic particles in it that are going to clog her liver and everything else too. So my thing is there's ways around having the lead issue. So why are we being taxed as 70% of those that don't have an issue for the 30% that do? And I'm sorry for the 30% that do, but ultimately you bought the house. Unfortunately, we bought a house here that's got a sewer problem. I bought a house that's got a sewer problem. I had to fix the sewer problem. So this is a layup tonight. If you approve taxing 70% of our village residents for an issue that's by far a minority of our town, this gentleman should get his sewer line replaced too. And we should start replacing everybody's sewer lines that have the same thing as a utility. You need it. So, mark my word, everybody here, we're going to take our water bills and cut them in half in January, to have an election in April, to then tax everybody just short of $100 a year to start replacing lead lines. If you're truly all on board with this, implement that tax January 1st in that first monthly bill, and let's get it started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinsman. Okay, no one else? Consent agenda, Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, Village Board meeting, October 22nd, 2024. 2, Village Board work session, November 12th, 2024. 3, Village Board closed session meeting, November 12th, 2024. B, action, notice of annual schedule of regular meetings. Motion to approve a resolution approving the annual schedule of regular meeting dates for 2025. C, action, authorization to destroy closed session recordings. Motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim records of closed meetings. D, action, updates to permit fees, deposits, and bonds. Motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 91 of Title 9 and Chapter 150 of Title 15 of the LaGrange Park Municipal Code regulating permit fees, deposits, and bonds. E, action, ordinance amending LaGrange Park Municipal Code. Motion to approve an ordinance amending Ordinance 1222, adding Chapter 38 to the Village of LaGrange Park Municipal Code. F, action, ordinance amending various provisions of the municipal code. Motion to approve an ordinance amending the municipal code of LaGrange Park. G, action, accounts payable and payroll summary. Motion 1, to authorize the president and chairperson of the finance committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2, to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the board of trustees at its next meeting.
Motion to approve report is presented.
Second?
All those, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan? Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Moving on, village manager's report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just one item to report on this evening. Just a quick reminder to everyone this evening that we are coming up close to Attorney Kathleen Keating's retirement. So she will continue her service for the village throughout the remainder of this calendar year, and that makes her last board meeting with us at the December 10th board meeting. And we plan to have a cake and coffee celebration of her service to the community. Keep in mind, she has served us as village attorney for 27 years in that position and has worked for the village much longer than that in the background, providing support and research and development of laws and ordinances even before that. So we're going to celebrate Kathy before the board meeting on December 10th, and we'll do some celebration a little bit after that as well. Related to that, the village is progressing its work in selecting of a new village attorney as we sadly approach the retirement of Kathy. We are getting closer to that, and progress is being made, and more information is forthcoming. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, President. This is the administration report is as follows. Village offices will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th in observance of Thanksgiving. Regular office hours will resume on Monday, December 2nd at 9 a.m. Tree lighting ceremony. The village's annual tree lighting ceremony will take place on Friday, December 6th at 6 o'clock p.m. at Memorial Park. The celebration will include performances, refreshments, and other festivities. Residents are invited to bring the whole family to this free event and enjoy hot chocolate, caroling, live music, and lots of holiday cheer. Santa Parade and Food Drive. Save the date for the village's Santa Parade and mobile food drive on Sunday, December 15 at 4:30 p.m. This festive parade will travel throughout the village and collect donations for local food pantries along the way. Stay tuned for more information and the parade routes. Village news. Stay up to date on important local news by signing up for the village's weekly electronic newsletter, e-briefs. It includes updates on construction projects, community events, and more. Visit the village's website to subscribe and follow the village's Facebook page for real-time updates, announcements, and community highlights. Stay informed and connected. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Moving on, Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the building department activities for October 2024. 85 building permits were issued in October 2024 compared to 70 in 2023. As of October, the pace of permit submittals year-to-date is slightly more than the pace of submittals at this time last year. Estimated construction costs for the last month were just over $2.7 million, which is more than the $2.25 million that was realized in October 2023. The increase in construction costs can be attributed to the increased number of permits issued. Permit fees collected last month equal just over $46,069, which is slightly more than the $38,174 of permit fees collected in October 2023. 200 building inspections were conducted this past month compared to 261 in 2023. All inspections were approved. A total of 6 new code enforcement cases were recorded last month. 4 of these projects were closed out, and the remaining 2 cases require further code enforcement action. I have one item that's up for discussion and action. Kevin and Kimberly McKinnon are the applicant and requesting a variation from section 153.193J of the municipal code to allow for the construction of an unenclosed front porch that encroaches into the required front yard setback at 424 North Brainerd Avenue. Subject property is located in the R1 single-family residential zoning district and is improved with a single-family home, detached garage, and a side deck and patio. The applicant does not currently have a front porch and is requesting to construct a new front porch that's 7.5 feet deep in order to accommodate an existing bay window to make the porch more functional. The zoning code allows a porch to encroach up to 5 feet into the required front yard setback and the steps are permitted to encroach an additional 5 feet into the required front yard, for a total of 10 feet. In order to proceed with the project, the applicant has applied for a zoning variation to allow the porch to encroach an additional 2.5 feet into the front setback and allow the steps to encroach an additional 1 foot 8 inches into the front yard. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing regarding the applicant on October 15th, 2024. The applicant attended the hearing and provided testimony. The minutes are in our packets. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the variation to increase the front step encroachment from the front porch from 5 feet to 7.5 feet and increase the front yard encroachment for the steps from 10 feet to 11 feet 8 inches by a vote of 4-1. Staff concurs with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a variation for 424 North Brainerd Avenue for Kevin and Kimberly McKinnon, case number 24-0008.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second discussion, trustee Zora?
Thank you. I did not attend the meeting, but I read the transcripts, and I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry to me. They live on Brainerd, and they're where the curve is, so their front yard is smaller, so that causes a little bit of a hardship. And they also have that bay window. And right now, the facade is on the simpler side. So I think that adding the porch will help fit into the context of the neighborhood and also add value to the house and the surrounding community. And it will make the porch be more functional. I mean, one of the comments here was that they like to have people on their porch and visiting. And right now, if we allowed a porch with that bay window, they wouldn't really be able to host and have people and have it be functional. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, trustee Zora. Any comments from the board? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Usually when we have votes like this, my main concern is will it cause water issues for the neighbors, front, side, or back. In discussion tonight with Director Hurst, most of my questions and concerns were answered, depending on the material they use. And he assured me that under site review that it would be kept within village code as to not to worry or upset anyone with the conception that it might be, cause water damage. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Oh, I just have one more
Yes,
comment.
trustee
And
Zora.
in the hearing, there was a neighbor that attended and spoke in favor of this too. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Zora. Megan, call the roll?
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara? Trustee
Yes.
Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, trustee Zora.
Thank you.
Engineering capital projects, trustee Stewart?
Thank you, Mr. President. This month's engineering and capital projects reports is as follows. Construction on the Edgewood and Richmond water main project is complete, with the side having rooted and growing well. Agreement to final quantities and resolution of small outstanding issues will be completed in November. Construction on the park improvements began October 1st, 2024. In October, the contractor completed all sewer work and the installation of curb and gutter on both sides of the streets, as well as pavement patching and driveway apron replacement on the west side of the roadway. The work on the replacement on the east sidewalk was delayed, allowing for access during Halloween. The project schedule includes replacement of the sidewalk and pavement patching on the east side of the roadway in the first 2 weeks of November, with milling and paving being completed by Thanksgiving. Construction for the 2024 pavement patching program is scheduled for November based on the discussions held at the pre-construction meeting. It is anticipated that the work will occur over 3 or 4 days and completed by November 22nd, 2024. Lastly, work began on the construction of 2024 sidewalk program on October 29th, 2024. It is anticipated that the work will be completed by November 8th, 2024. And that concludes my capital projects report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Stewart. Public Safety Committee, trustee Caputo?
Yes, thank you, President DeCipio. I have Police and Fire Department reports and one item on the agenda. First, the police summary for October 2024. The total number of crimes reported to date this year is 13.9% lower than last year, with 234 reported this year compared to 269 last year. Traffic enforcement is at 4,338 total tickets issued through October of 2024, Overall, police activity is at 1,176 incidents for the month of October 2024. Of those 1,176 total incidents, 327 were self-initiated building or park checks, 243 were traffic stops, and 44 were closed home checks. Department members attended 298 hours of training along with the completion of required monthly online training and Lexipol daily training bulletins. The police department received formal recognition at the October 8th work session meeting from ILEAP for receiving Tier 1 accreditation. Police department staff assisted with several Friday night Nazareth football games. Commander Morocco and Chief Contois attended the International Chief of Police Conference in Boston, Massachusetts. Detective Sergeant Renk and Detective Spurgash attended the Illinois Homicide Investigations Conference. The police department took possession of a new 2025 Ford Interceptor utility, which is now on patrol as Unit 228. Police department staff in conjunction with the DEA participated in the annual Drug Take Back Day, October 26th. We collected over 75 pounds of expired or unused pharmaceutical drugs, thanks to everyone who dropped off items for proper disposal. As a reminder, the police department has a drop-off box in the lobby available for residents during normal business hours. And the police department took part in the library trunk or treat event, the Ogden Avenue School Bike Parade, the St. Francis Homecoming Parade, and finally the Chamber Haunted Trolley event. The police department worked with several schools on conducting lockdown drills. And as always, a friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residence, especially during overnight hours. If you're going on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, frontlinepss.com/the Grange Park, or log onto the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, feel free to fill out a vacation watch card at the police department between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Excuse me, that concludes the police department report. Now on to the fire department report. EMS incidents this month, 169. There have been 1,581 year-to-date compared to 1,572 year-to-date in 2023. Fire rescue incidents this month equaled 68. There have been 564 year-to-date compared to 461 year-to-date in 2023. Several personnel attended the Mavis 10 training event at the Illinois Fire Service Institute of U of I in Champaign. They experienced many live fire scenarios and received some great training. Over a period of 3 days, personnel participated in fire training with NICOR in Troy Grove, Illinois. They got to experience fighting several gas-fed fires with fire extinguishers and dry chemical. In conjunction with Fire Prevention Week, fire safety presentations were provided to students at Barnesdale, Brook Park, Forest Road, and LADSE schools, along with Ready Teddy Preschool. Personnel also assisted with fire drills at most of these schools and also at Nazareth Academy. Personnel participated in the annual Silent Parade, which travels through western suburbs from Hinsdale to Lisle. It's done in recognizing firefighters and civilians who lost their lives to fire. And personnel assisted with the Haunted Trolley event on Friday afternoon and evening. On-duty crews delivered fire safety information to nearly all village businesses, including pamphlets regarding fire safety on the job and fire extinguishers at work. And Fire Chief Magos spoke briefly with high school students along with President DeCipio at Dubic Electric as part of the WSCI's Manufacturing Day events. A recruiting information orientation session took place on October 28th in conjunction with Monday night training. Another session was scheduled for November the 6th. And personnel provided an EMS presentation to Nazareth's Healthcare Careers Group. Chief Magos participated in the Mavis 10 hazmat team's incident drill in Hodgkins, and the staff began meeting with ambulance vendors to discuss purchasing options and obtaining proposal. We have one incident to share. Early Thursday, Halloween morning at 3:44 a.m., Engine 1211 and Chief 1201 responded to a significant fire at 15 Hayes in LaGrange. Upon arriving, fire was coming from the third floor attic apartment of a 3-story multifamily wood frame building. 1201 assisted as command and operations, and 1211 took a hose line to the third floor for fire attack. There were no injuries to approximately 12 residents, and firefighters rescued approximately 4 to 5 dogs and birds. Thank you, Chief Magos and your staff for helping out with that. I have one item of agenda to go over, and it's agreement for administration hearing officer services. The purpose is to approve and to consider and approve a resolution authorizing an independent contractor agreement between John F. Simpson of Simpson DeTillo LLC and the villages of LaGrange and LaGrange Park for administrative hearing officer services in support of the shared adjudication system. As part of an ongoing collaboration to enhance local code enforcement processes, the villages of LaGrange and LaGrange Park have established a partnership to create a shared administrative hearing system to address parking citations, quasi-criminal violations, and other village code violations. This system is designed to improve due process efficiency, better manage resources, and offer residents a streamlined process for ordinance-related matters. In July 2024, the villages issued a request for proposal to identify a qualified attorney with relative administrative hearing experience for this role. 8 proposals were received by September 16th this year deadline, and 3 firms were interviewed. John F. Simpson of Simpson DeTillo LLC was selected based on his qualifications, experience, and unique background, serving as both the current hearing officer for the village of Hillside and the village prosecutor for Willow Springs. As a founding partner of Simpson DeTillo LLC, Mr. Simpson brings extensive experience in administrative law, land use, real estate, and local prosecution, and has practiced in multiple Illinois counties. Additionally, Daniel N. Christus, counsel at Simpson DeTillo LLC, will serve as a backup if necessary. The independent contractor agreement outlines the scope of engagement, with Mr. Simpson serving as administrative hearing officer for the village's shared and adjudication court. The agreement has an initial term of 2 years with options for an annual renewal by multiple agreement. Either party may terminate the agreement with appropriate notice, 30-day notice by the villages and a 90-day by the firm. A complete description of services and responsibility is outlined in the agreement. And it is recommended that the village board approve the independent contract agreement between John F. Simpson of Simpson DeTillo LLC and the villages of LaGrange and LaGrange Park to designate Mr. Simpson as the administrative hearing officer for the shared adjudication court. The village of LaGrange will consider approval of this contract at their village board meeting, which is scheduled on November 25th, or which was on November 25th, 2024. This motion is an item to be placed on today's agenda for discussion and action, and the motion is to approve a resolution approving an independent contract agreement between John F. Simpson of Simpson DeTillo LLC and the villages of LaGrange and LaGrange Park for administrative hearing officer services.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion, trustee Caputo.
Thank you, President DeCipio. With reviewing this, as we have this new adjudication process going on, I think it's great that we have this opportunity not to only take this on for our village, but also combining the shared, with our neighboring LaGrange as well. And from prior experience, I personally have done business with John Simpson before, and he's very professional, and he's very matter of fact, and gets to the point of what he needs to for his real estate action. So I would be in favor of this action.
Thank you, trustee Caputo. Any other comments? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this is something we've talked about for some time. And finally, it's come to be put in place, and I think it's going to be an improved service for our village. I mean, on the surface, it might seem like it's a punitive approach, but it's, bringing this closer to home, giving us the opportunity to work more closely with our residents. Something we had a long time ago, and it went a different way, and I think we actually lost some service as a result of it. So, but I think bringing this closer to home and working with our neighboring community of LaGrange it's actually going to be an improvement overall for the village and for our residents. And being able to, I think more closely to home, educate our residents on how things are supposed to be handled properly. So very much in support.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Just for the board's preview, that Julie and I both were on that selection committee, and we feel that we've brought a quality candidate that's going to serve our village well over the years. So with that, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Caputo. Okay, moving on, Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. For October, staff repaired one water main break, installed a new fire hydrant, and replaced 5 lead service lines with copper. 3 hydrant modification kits were also completed. The brush pickup program is complete. The leaf collection program, weather permitting, should be ending next week. Hydrant flushing throughout the village was completed. Fall tree planting was completed with a total of 49 trees planted in the parkway. Concrete and sidewalk repairs have been completed. Tree removals were completed by staff and contractors and will continue through the year. The brush collected throughout the year was tub ground into mulch, which will be delivered to residents next spring. Matt Smith attended the Illinois Public Service Institute in the beginning of the month. This is Matt's first of 3 years to complete the program. Street patches were completed along with parkway restorations. GIS work has continued collecting data on village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 1. 15 monthly bacterial water samples were taken along with Stage 2 samples. Various water and sewer work orders were completed along with the resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. Routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was completed, as well as police and fire vehicles. Next, we have the lead service line replacement rate. The purpose is to present an ordinance for the village board's consideration and approval to amend the Village of LaGrange Park's municipal code, establishing water rates to fund the state-mandated lead service line replacement program. Over the past 9 months, the village board has worked diligently to evaluate and refine water rate methodology, a solution that balances the financial burden equitably among all users of the village water system. This exhaustive process reflects the board's dedication to fairness, transparency, and financial responsibility in addressing one of the most significant infrastructure challenges faced by this village. At the November 12th work session meeting, the village board reviewed and discussed 2 final rate methodologies. After a careful deliberation, the board reached a consensus to adopt a modified CIP hybrid rate program with single-family flat rate as the preferred approach. This model codifies the board's goal of distributing costs equitably across user groups while meeting the funding needs of the vital project. You see the details of the month ordinance. Single family rate would be at $8.40 a month. All accounts $5.10 per month, plus 64 cents per 100 cubic feet of water used. The ordinance also specifies that lead service line replacement charges shall increase by 10% if the payment received is after the due date. These rates reflect a balanced approach to funding the replacement project, with single-family residential and individually metered multifamily accounts contributing through a flat rate and all other accounts contributing through a combination of flat rate and usage-based charges. If approved, the ordinance will go into effect May 1st of 2025. Staff will prepare communication materials to inform residents and customers about the new rates, their purpose, and the timelines for implementation. Therefore, I make a motion to approve an ordinance amending the Village of LaGrange Park's municipal code establishing water rates.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as in the first paragraph stated, this is a state mandated, non-funded project. I did have a discussion with Mr. Ratty, Director Ratty. because I was kind of confused about the $8.40 and the $5.10, and maybe Mark or staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that this is a third of what we talked about, the $25 and change for the month. This is just to get the program, the funding started, so that we have a plan in place so that we can go to the state and apply for the 30-year loan at 0% interest.
That is correct. So this is a rate that will allow us to fund. If we had a 30% loan, we'd be able to get over half the funding towards this cost. It supports $14 million at 0% over 30 years. So it'd make a significant impact. Certainly there are things that can change over time. As we look, there's over 400 of those services are unknown as we get them better identified. If they follow along with the track that we have, that would reduce the cost. So this is the initial step to kind of implement the loan. It would help us put it in good position as we make our application to show that we do have a rate there to be able to pay it. So that's a critical portion of what we're trying to say is we've looked at it beforehand instead of waiting until if we get a loan, now how are we going to pay it? So.
Thanks, Mark.
Comments from the board? Trustee Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. President. As everyone here knows, this has been a huge effort by everyone involved, staff, multiple hours, days. I don't think there's anybody in this room, there's nobody at this dais that likes what we have to do here. But when a mandate comes from the state that says you've got to do this in a certain amount of time, regardless of how much it costs, it left no choice. And as I said, no one's really happy about it, but it's something that we all, as village residents, I think need to take on and follow the direction of the state. And this is a way to get started with that. I do want to extend appreciation for all of the time and effort that it takes to get us to this point. Seems a little bit of an oxymoron or contrary to say that appreciate all the effort and time to do something that none of us would like to do if we had a choice. We have no choice, and unfortunately, I think this is the fairest way in which for us to, as a village, follow the mandate of the state.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner. Any other comments? Trustee Council?
Thank you, President DeCipio. I would like to thank Mark and staff for all of the time that they've taken to explain all of this. I was one of the few that was trying to wrap my head around it, and it took a little while to get that done. My question to Mark is, effective May 1st, 2025, I thought we were implementing it earlier than May, and then we also have a water rate increase that's going to accompany this initiative. Is that accurate?
So this rate is always been projected as a May. That's about when we would start incurring it if we got a loan. The applications are due March 31st, 2024. We have our plan going in, which we state this rate's going to be part of it. But we wouldn't actually be moving forward with a project probably until August of next year if we did obtain a loan. So there's no need to put that amount out there earlier than May. As far as any other water rate, we have not looked at the water rate since our last increase study.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? I just have a couple comments. I want to thank staff for all that you guys did to get us to this point. I'm going to address the resident with the philosophical issue that he has presented. And, you know, this is a policy issue by the board. And we've done this in many arenas. It's similar to our road program. And when we went for referendum to redo our roads, my road wasn't done. Your road may not have been done. A lot of the roads weren't done. But we all contributed because we're a community. And we feel that policy-wise, we're all in this game together. And so because of the enormity of the cost, it would be certainly insignificant to all of our residents, to the ones that only have lead service lines, to observe this burden. We couldn't do it. as a village. It's too costly for us. So as a policy, the board and staff came up with, similar to what we do when we go out for road grants and loans, to everybody pays taxes on our loans, because it's a community-wide project. And your road may not get done, your service line may get done, but you're contributing to the health of the community. So that's just my philosophical. I know we've differed before. Go ahead, Julia.
Mr. President, one of the things I was thinking about as this item was being discussed this evening, which really is a culmination of the last at least year on this topic. We've talked about it well over a year, the rate itself for almost a year, different types of methodologies. But what I think of is the work that the village did when this mandate first became law, or it was imminent that it was, and that members of the board, our elected officials, went down to Springfield to really fight very hard in helping the legislators understand the potential impacts to our community. I also thought of the way that the law redefined responsibility, right? So we talked a lot, or we heard a lot this evening about the demarcation point of our public utilities. Where does the private property end? Where does the public property end? Well, this particular law redefined who's responsible for service lines. The law was clear. So although our municipal code says where the responsibility is between the homeowner and the public side, state law takes all of the responsibility onto the municipality. And that was something that we also went down to Springfield to really try and get some good definition. We fought really hard to create understanding for municipalities that had none, or misinformation that was going out there. We met with the IML, we met with our legislators, we met with the IEPA, we had multiple telephone conversations with them in the back room, talking about how could this be our responsibility. The village of Grange Park was the only municipality in the state of Illinois to write legislation to make a change to the law to provide more relief for municipalities so that the rates wouldn't be so onerous onto homeowners. Now we tried to get support. We did get sponsors for that bill, and we tried to negotiate that bill. And we'll try again. And now we have new laws coming at the federal level. And that's a game changer as well, and we'll see how that turns out. But what I reflect on tonight is not only the work that was put into this to try and create the best possible outcome, but the work that the village did before the conversation even started. The countless trips down to Springfield and the work that was done. I just wanted to reflect on that for a moment. That's all I have to say, Mr. President.
Thank you, Julia. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Continue on, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have the water main project engineering agreement for Robin Hood Lane, Kings Court, Castle Circle, design engineering. The purpose is to approve a design engineering service agreement with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company for the upcoming Robin Hood Lane, Kings Court, Castle Circle water main project. The fiscal year 24-25 draft budget includes funds for engineering services to complete the design of the Robin Hood Lane, Kings Court, Castle Circle water main project. These blocks are included in the 5-year plan as the following locations for replacement. This process now ensures that the IEPA permit is submitted and approved before the project is bid in the spring for construction in fiscal year 25-26. Robin Hood project location, Robin Hood Lane, 31st to 26th. The amount will be charged under the water fund, professional services, $575,100, $130,100. Kings Court, Robin Hood to Robin Hood, $56,200. Castle Circle, Robin Hood to the dead end, $27,900. Staff recommends approving an agreement between the village and Edwin Hancock Engineering Company. Therefore, I make a motion to approve and authorize the village manager to execute agreements between the Village of LaGrange Park and Edwin Hancock Engineering for design and engineering services in the amount of $214,200 for the Robin Hood Lane, Kings Court, Castle Circle Water Main Project.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, discussion, trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier discussions with the engineer and previous discussions with Director Ratty, I support this, do little pieces of the infrastructure when we can. And the village has had a great working relationship with Edwin Hancock Engineering. They've served the village well for many years, so I would support this.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee,
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
All right, next we have the general maintenance engineering agreements with Edwin Hancock Engineering. The purpose is to approve 3 engineering service agreements with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company for general maintenance projects. General background in preparation for several upcoming public works projects, staff presents 3 engineering agreements with Hancock Engineering for design and construction engineering services. First, sewer repair point project, budgeted amount $36,000, actual amount $36,000, under account 510-70-51000. Sewer lining project, budgeted amount $51,000, actual amount $40,000, under the same account number. Sewer cleaning and televising, $9,000, actual amount $9,000, again under the same account number. Hancock Engineering will create bid documents and hold a bid opening for these projects at a later date. After that, staff will present the low bidder for each project to the village board for consideration. Staff recommends approving all 3 agreements with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company. Therefore, Mr. President, 3 motions. I'll read each one individually. Motion 1, to approve an engineering agreement with Edwin Hancock Engineering for design and construction engineering services in the amount of $36,000 for fiscal year 24-25 sewer repair project, and authorize the village manager to execute these necessary documents.
Second.
We can read all 3 if you'd like.
Yeah, okay. No discussion after each one, or?
We'll discuss them all together.
Okay. 2, approve an engineering agreement with the Hancock Engineering for design and construction engineering services in the amount of $40,000 for 24-25 sewer lining project, and authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents. Lastly, approve an engineering agreement with Edwin Hancock Engineering for design and construction engineering services in the amount of $9,000 for 24-25 sewer cleaning and televising project, and authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and second for all 3 documents. Discussion, trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The previously stated, Edwin Hancock has served the village well for many years. This is preventative maintenance to hopefully prevent a failure or blowout at a future date, and I would support this.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion's passed unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
That completes Public Works, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is 2 items. First of all, the financial update for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, and then the 2024 tax levy. First, the financial update that goes through October 2024. Fiscal year to date, general fund revenue of $6,158,815 is at 52.6% of the annual budget and $2 million higher than last year, and that's primarily due to the timing of property tax receipts. Property tax receipts are 1.96 million, greater than last year, and the county mailed out second installment bills, you recall, late last year, which were due December 1st. This year, the second installment bills return to a typical due date of August 1st. Other local taxes are higher by 6192 or 1%. Intergovernmental receipts are up 206,510 or 10.4% from last year. Sales tax and income tax continue to trend higher, while state use tax and personal property replacement tax are lower. Licenses and registration fees are at $26,894 or 11% lower than last year, and that's due to the timing of liquor and business licenses. Permit receipts are at $95,513 or almost 30% lower than the prior year, and that's due primarily to several large new construction projects from last year. Charges for services are at $139,207 or 23.7% lower than last year, and that's due to ambulance service receipts and the timing of water tower lease payments. Fine revenue is at $29,387 or almost 62% higher than last year. Miscellaneous revenue is at $71,691 or 30.6% greater than last year, and that's due to the increase in interest income. Total general fund expenditures of $5,131,381 are at 46.8% of the annual budget and $906,464 or 21.5% greater than last year. The increase is primarily due to the police pension contribution, which is recorded as property tax receipts are received. And importantly, all departments are within budget expectations. Thank you for your efforts, all department managers. And now for the 2024 property tax levy. The village's annual property tax levy is restricted by the Illinois Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, known as PTEL. The PTEL limits the amount the village can increase the aggregate levy each year to the lesser of 5% or the change in the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. The term aggregate levy is specifically defined by the Truth in Taxation Law to include the corporate and special purpose levies and excludes levies for debt service. For the 2024 levy, the PTEL CPI change is 3.4%, and that is therefore the limiting factor. The PTEL authorizes the village to collect additional taxes on new property value. And over the past 10 years, the value of new property has ranged from 0% to 0.4% of the village's total equalized assessed value. We will not know the actual amount of new value until well after the village's tax levy ordinance is due to the county. And as such, an estimated increase of 1% has historically been incorporated into the levy estimate calculation to ensure that all potential new value is included. The county is then required to reduce the village's actual extension to the amount allowed under the PTEL. The village board approved an estimated aggregate levy for 2024 at the October board meeting in the amount of $4,502,507, which is 4.4% above the 2023 extension of $4,313,856. The estimated aggregate levy is less than a 5% increase, and therefore a public hearing is not required by the Truth in Taxation Law. The 4.4% total increase includes the 1% for new value estimate. It is important to note that for most residents, the actual increase in the village's aggregate property tax levy should be approximately the PTEL restricted amount of 3.4%. The village's levy will also include the debt service for the 2016 road and fire equipment bonds. Including the debt service for the bonds, the total impact to a village homeowner is projected to be less than a 3% increase. For the owner of a home valued at $500,000, the estimated annual increase is approximately $44. Unless directed otherwise, the county clerk will add 3% to the village's aggregate levy to offset uncollectible taxes. As has been done in the past, the 2024 levy ordinance directs the county to reduce the loss factor to 2% based on the village's collection history, except for debt service. The additional amount does not increase the total levy allowed under the PTEL. There's two proposed ordinances are attached to to our document this evening that I will read. The first ordinance authorizes the county clerk to extend the village's proposed 2024 property tax levy. The second ordinance provides the county clerk direction on how to reduce the village's 2024 property tax levy to the PTEL allowed amount. As in the past, the proposed ordinance is directing the county clerk to apply any reduction due to PTEL to the corporate levy, and this ensures the special purpose amounts, such as for police pension, will be fully levied. Additional ordinances to abate the debt service for the 2014 and 2016 bonds will be included on the January Village Board agenda. So I would like to submit a motion to approve an ordinance providing for the annual tax levy for the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1, 2024, and ending April 30, 2025.
Motion and second, discussion, trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, in some respects, this is a formality in terms of the format and the way it reads and expressed, but it does give us the authority to levy the taxes that we have due to us to run the village. So, and this is, I think, is maximizing our amount here for those funds. So I obviously fully support this.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
And the second motion? And the second motion is to approve an ordinance providing for specific reductions of the 2024 property tax levy pursuant to the property tax extension limitation law.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion, trustee Lautner?
And here again, this gives the county the authority to reduce as they see appropriate and for us to receive all funds that we have coming to us.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
And that concludes the finance report and the tax levy for 2024 this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Lautner. Other reports, our village clerk,
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
our village treasurer, village engineer, our village attorney,
No report this evening.
and commercial revitalization committee, trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2024 Business of the Year. Congratulations to Hop District Community Brewing Company for being named Business of the Year by the Grange Park Chamber of Commerce at the annual awards dinner on November 7th. Thank you to Hop District owners Shane Hansen and Jim Koblish for their outstanding contributions to our community since 2022. Winter Tree Wonderland. Many of the Chamber of Commerce members will take part in creatively decorating trees for all to see in the Memorial Park this season. Be sure to walk through this Winter Tree Wonderland during the village's annual tree lighting ceremony on Friday, December 6th. CRC meeting. Stay up to date on what's happening in LaGrange Park by attending the village's Commercial Revitalization Committee meetings. The committee meets regularly to discuss how the village can best support new and existing businesses and enhance the commercial areas in town. Upcoming topics include renewing the branding and identity plan and discussing forthcoming streetscape projects for the village market and the 31st Street corridor. Check the calendar page on the village's website for upcoming meetings, meeting dates and agendas. And I have one item up for discussion and action. This will be the ordinance for the property on 1024 Newberry. Purpose to consider to consider and approve an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of the property located on 1024 Newberry Avenue, LaGrange Park, Illinois, in furtherance of the 31st Street Barnesdale Business District Plan, and authorize the use of business district funds for this purpose. General background: on November 12, 2024, the board approved the purchase of 1024 Newberry Avenue for $383,900 and authorized the village president to execute the real estate sale contract. This property is adjacent to the existing parking lot at 1029 Beach Avenue and is critical to advancing the goals of the 31st Street Barnesdale Business District. The acquisition of 1024 Newberry is a strategic investment that directly supports the goals outlined in the 31st Street Barnesdale Business District Plan. This property will play a pivotal role in fostering future development and business growth by expanding parking capacity to better serve patrons, employees, and businesses within the district. Additionally, the acquisition will help alleviate spillover parking impacts on adjacent residential neighborhoods, notably benefiting residents of Newberry Avenue who have experienced parking challenges due to the district's growing activity. Integrating this activity with the adjacent parking lot at 1029 Beach Avenue will create a unified functional parking area, improving access to the business district and is supporting its long-term growth. Consolidating these parcels ensures enhanced parking capacity, which is critical to maintaining accessibility and fostering continued economic vitality within the district. This acquisition also reflects sound long-term planning and responsible financial stewardship. It is classified as an eligible business district project cost to be funded through the business district tax allocation fund under ordinance number 1057. The village intends to rezone the property for use, demolish the existing residence, and develop a parking lot in alignment with the village code and the business district plan, ensuring the property serves the community's evolving needs while advancing the district's strategic goals. While the purchase price and terms have been approved, the closing date has not yet been scheduled. Authorizing the acquisition via ordinance provides a clear record for the business district funds for the purchase. Following the passage of the ordinance, the village will proceed to finalize the purchase of 1024 Newberry after thoroughly reviewing the title, land survey, and closing documents. Once acquired, the village will initiate the process to rezone the property in accordance with the municipal code, which is a crucial step before any demolition activities commence. The village plans to allocate funds to the fiscal year 25-26 budget for the demolition of the resident on the property and related site preparation. The village will also apply to Cook County to consolidate the property with 1029 Beach Avenue and develop a site plan for parking lot construction to be reviewed and approved in ordinance with the municipal code. In the current fiscal year 24-25, the only anticipated capital expenditure beyond the purchase is the installation of a security system to secure the property once it has been acquired. Costs incurred for acquisition, rezoning, demolition, and development will be funded through the Business District Tax Allocation Fund as eligible project expenses under the BD District Development and Redevelopment Law. Staff recommends approval of the ordinance authorizing the acquisition of the property on 1024 Newberry Avenue in furtherance with the 31st Street Barnesdale Business District Plan. Motion to approve the ordinance of the Village of Grange Park authorizing the acquisition of real estate in furtherance with the 31st Street Barnesdale Business District Plan.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Trustee Stewart?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We discussed how unique of an opportunity this is and further future-proofing that area as we look to expand and have other businesses come to that area. The last board meeting, we did have some residents discuss concerns about YMCA, which the memo touched on. I did have a question though for the staff. Do we have a designated area where business owners or workers should be parking? This is just kind of a separate.
Excuse me, do we have designated public parking areas for each businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it's all public, but do we have an area where we have the owners and the people that work there to actually park so that it may open up that area for when patrons actually come to?
I don't believe we have any designated areas. Have we talked with business owners in the past about suggesting areas for the employees to park? I believe we have had those discussions. It's a great question. I can look into that more. unless if Chief Contois, you remember? Yeah, we've had discussions like that before. Before COVID, the pandemic, there were periods of time where parking was getting really tough, right? Really tricky. And we were trying to figure out how to alleviate some of the congestion with parking in certain areas. And we had some conversation there, but I'd have to go back and look at my records.
Sure.
But as we move forward with the work that we're doing on the branding and the identity and the streetscape work that we're going to be doing on 31st Street, which will be providing for wayfinding signage to direct patrons to one unified parking area. Hopefully that will get patrons that drive down 31st Street. It helps them understand better where parking is likely to be available. As staff and with the village board, we can talk about other measures that we can take to help mitigate any parking congestion that may happen, given any development that may happen anywhere along that corridor. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, so, you know, I approve this acquisition. I definitely think that we should address the YMCA issues, and I know we discussed permit parking and ways that we could reroute the YMCA customers, but with that said, I approve this.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Other comments? Trustee Zora?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did speak to residents after the meeting at the last meeting, and all of them seemed in favor of this. I think at first they were a little confused, but the fact that we would relieve some of the parking on the street, I think made them happy for safety reasons, for just the irritants of people parking by their homes and near their driveways. They all seem to be in favor of additional parking over there. And I think for the long term of the village, potentially other businesses coming in, I think that this is a positive for LaGrange Park, and there's not going to be any more land. This kind of fell in our lap, and I think we should take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Trustee Laudner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Certainly, it's taken advantage of an opportunity that doesn't often come along, but to make sure I'm clear, make sure that we're clear, the $383,900 and I assume any associated closing costs related to that transaction will all fold under the business development account, nothing outside of that for budgetary impact or whatever.
This fiscal year, I'm not certain what all the closing costs would be, but yes. Yeah. It would all go, yes, this is direct quote and direction from Kathy Field-Orr, who advised us, who wrote the ordinance, advised us on the ordinance, and provided the letter that you have this evening.
Thank you.
Comments? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just question for staff. That business development district right now, maybe Larry could answer too. What is the amount in that district right now? Roughly.
So if we look at the treasurer's report from tonight, the Barnesdale Business District had about $950,000 in it.
Thank you. Okay, so as we go back to 2 weeks ago, the meeting, the estimated previous price tag of close to $1 million, if not exceeding that. I don't know how quick that the BDD, going forward quickly, will be able to get that $1 million covered. So I'm fearful that some of that money at some point would come out of the village. And as I previously stated, I have concerns that Julie and I have had multiple discussions over the last couple of weeks about adding staff to the police department. And I'm confident after speaking with Manager Cedillo that those future discussions will take place shortly in the next board budget meetings. But I'm not going to, I still have to vote no on this because I still think that the money would be well spent addressing the police department, but I'm pretty confident that that's gonna go forward.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Council?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer the same perspective that Trustee Sheehan offered regarding the return on investment, regarding a TIF structure and the return on investment for such a sizable amount of money. I don't know how we're going to recover the $1 million that is anticipated being spent on this project. And considering that it would be detrimental, in my opinion, to take funds from a BDD, TIF BDD, and suspend any furtherance of the usage of TIF dollars, not only usage of TIF dollars, but the return on investment. So I cannot support this for various reasons. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lauder,
Yes.
Trustee Zora,
Yes.
Trustee Council,
No.
Trustee Sheehan, Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes by a vote of 4-2, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Jermaine Stewart, for all your work and what that. Motion to approve the committee and collectors reports as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have a couple items I'd like to address quickly. First of all, I'd like to thank Chief and Public Works and all those responsible for the renovation of our building here. From being here on Friday and seeing what it looked like on Friday to the turnaround that is tonight is just remarkable. Just kudos to all of you for the hard work that you did in putting this all together. I do have one issue that I'd like to bring forward because it bothers me a little bit because it's a reflection on all of us, trustees and our staff. We've talked about this repeatedly with the group, and for those of you trustees who will respect this, this does not pertain to you, but you know, we have to be respectful in our communications with outside the village hall here, with contracted employees, with department heads, with everyone that is involved in our village doings. And the reason for that is that we need some continuity here. And I've asked that everything that we do here, if there's an issue that you have, that you approach Julia and get through Julia first, and then it's okay to go forward if she gives to tell you what else to do. Because without Julia's knowledge in this, she has no clue of what's going on in this village if we're all going off on our own different directions. And I bring this up because there was an incident over the weekend, and it was a reflection on me because there was a call made to our TIF attorney, which certainly is out of bounds. And the TIF attorney was very upset and called Julia, and then Julia called me. And I wouldn't be talking about this at this point if we didn't address this before. Because it's a reflection on staff, it's a reflection on the trustees up here, and it's a reflection on our community because it gets talked about outside of these halls. So I just ask again, respectfully to all of you, if it means I'm talking to you, then I'm talking to you. But those respectfully that abide by this, I'm sorry that I had to bring it up. But there's a process of communication here that's worked for the 20 years that I've been here. And that's to go through the village manager first so that she's included in all correspondence and doings in this village. Julia's been extremely successful in just triaging those questions and getting to the appropriate sources and voicing our concerns and then making the solutions that are necessary. So I'm not going to belabor it anymore. Just please respect what we have in place here. If you have concerns, and for anyone here, please go to Julia first and then do what you have to do. But the process has to be followed for us to run effectively. On behalf of the village board, the village staff, I want to wish everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. With that, I'll move on to new business. Any new business? Motion to move into, we don't take comment right now, sorry. Motion to move into closed session?
I'd like to submit a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of this agenda. Pardon me. I'd like to submit a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body and legal counsel for the public body in accordance with 5 ILCS 120/2C, not to return to regular session until the next regularly scheduled meeting, December 10th, in this room.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Now you can call the roll.
Trustee Lautner? Trustee Zora? Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. We'll move into an executive session.
Jim, you just got 15